You are standing in the middle of a crowded supermarket when your heart begins to pound. You feel a sudden flush of heat, your vision grows faint, and you are hit by an overwhelming need to escape the building immediately. Case 3.1 involves a 36-year-old teacher referred by her GP. She describes recurring episodes of palpitations, heat sensations, and lightheadedness, all occurring without any obvious physical cause. These symptoms are episodic and situational. Her first attack occurred during a school staff meeting, and the second followed in a large supermarket, settings where she felt escaping would be difficult or conspicuous. Despite the severity of the symptoms, her general practitioner found no abnormalities. A physical examination, EKG, and thyroid function tests all returned entirely normal results. Clinical protocol dictates ruling out organic causes as the first priority. Because palpitations and faintness can indicate cardiac arrhythmia or hyperthyroidism, these must be excluded before a psychiatric diagnosis can be formalized. While her medical tests show she is in perfect health, the teacher describes a growing apprehension about leaving her house, fearing that another attack will occur in a public place. To treat panic disorder with agoraphobia, clinicians must map the pathology from the initial physiological feedback loop through the cognitive evolution of fear, and finally to the behavioral restriction of spatial avoidance. Normal respiration maintains a precise balance of oxygen intake and carbon dioxide exchange in the bloodstream, keeping the body in a state of homeostasis. An acute panic attack functions as a runaway physiological positive feedback loop, where the body's internal signals begin to drive its own distress. This loop begins at node 1. An external environmental trigger causes hyperventilation, leading to the rapid off-gassing of carbon dioxide from the lungs, causing CO2 levels in the blood to plummet. This low CO2 state, known as hypocapnia, triggers cerebral vasoconstriction. This narrowing of brain blood vessels reduces blood flow, manifesting as the dizziness and faintness reported during her episodes. The brain misinterprets these harmless shifts as a life-threatening medical emergency. This perceived threat triggers a massive adrenaline dump, accelerating breathing and heart rate, trapping the patient in a self-sustaining loop of panic. The attack is a physically harmless false alarm, yet the intensity of the sympathetic response makes the experience feel genuinely life-threatening to the patient. While the physiological loop explains the attack itself, the long-term disability of the disorder develops during the time spent between these episodes. This patient has developed anticipatory anxiety, a constant fear of the fear, where she remains in a state of high alert, waiting for the next episode to strike. Using this spatial map, she begins to cognitively link her panic attacks to specific environments. Her brain tags the enclosed staff room and large supermarket as danger zones because they felt like traps during previous attacks. Unlike social anxiety, her fear is about having an unmanageable attack where she cannot escape. To prevent this, she avoids these locations, creating a shrinking safe perimeter that tightly restricts her world to her home. Clinicians define this progressive, expanding spatial avoidance as the secondary development of agoraphobia. If this avoidance behavior continues, the home eventually becomes the only perceived safe zone, leading to significant functional isolation and a total inability to maintain her teaching career. Agoraphobia is a behavioral adaptation, a systemic effort to prevent the recurrence of unmanageable physiological panic by limiting environmental exposure. Treatment requires addressing both the internal physiological loop and the external spatial avoidance map simultaneously. The clinical strategy uses targeted therapies to act as wedges, breaking specific pathological nodes. Breathing retraining targets the first node, preventing hyperventilation and stopping the CO2 drop. Simultaneously, cognitive behavioral therapy uses interoceptive conditioning as a wedge to break the link between physical sensations and cognitive fear. During interoceptive conditioning, the patient safely experiences physical sensations to learn they aren't dangerous. Then, graduated exposure focuses on the spatial map, systematically returning to avoided locations to expand her safe perimeter. If psychological interventions alone are insufficient, SSRIs, such as sertraline or paroxetine, are introduced as a first-line pharmacological bridge. While effective at reducing the frequency of attacks, SSRIs typically require 2 to 4 weeks of consistent use before the patient experiences full therapeutic benefits. Benzodiazepines provide immediate relief during an acute attack, but their use is strictly limited to the short term because of the high risk of physiological dependence. Effective treatment matches specific tools to precise points of failure, using a mechanistic approach to reverse the pathology of panic. Panic disorder follows a clear clinical arc. Isolated, terrifying attacks lead to anticipatory anxiety, which eventually solidifies into the spatial disability of agoraphobia. The mnemonic Panic Agoraphobia summarizes the diagnostic features and the progression of the disorder. The first half covers the presentation, palpitations in public, being apprehensive always, and having no real cardiac disease. For medical board exams, remember that excluding somatic causes like cardiac or thyroid disease is the essential first step before confirming this psychiatric diagnosis. The second half of the mnemonic tracks the behavioral shift, intensifying fear of fear, crowds avoided, avoidance increasing, and going out becoming difficult. Early intervention with CBT and breathing retraining can intercept this pathology before the patient develops severe spatial restrictions and life-altering avoidance. With targeted treatment, patients learn to navigate previously avoided public spaces with calm control, regaining the independence they lost to the fear of panic. The prognosis for this disorder is highly positive. Between 60% and 80% of patients respond successfully to CBT, often achieving a full recovery of their daily function. While panic attacks are terrifying, they are physically harmless. Understanding their physiological mechanism is the key to preventing disability and restoring patient autonomy.